Hello everybody. Let's talk about scouting sectors in FTL. I've enlisted a few mods to help demonstrate how I route my path to an exit. When you arrive in a sector, the first thing the player should do is scout the map. There are 3 goals a player should consider to achieve the maximum effectiveness in their routing. First goal is to check all the beacon connections. This will help ensure that a dead end doesn't force you to revisit a beacon, or worse, jump into a beacon now controlled by the rebels, which can quickly end your run. The second goal is to maximize your jumps within the sector. Ideally, you'll want to jump on the exit beacon just before the rebels take it over. Each jump provides an opportunity to gain scrap, resources, or items which are necessary for a winning run. Thus, the more beacons the player explores, the more likely they are to win their run. The third goal is to know the location of the stores. Each sector type has a set number of store beacons, though events may provide the player with more. Stores are the only way for a player to acquire new systems, as well as the most consistent way to get weapons or crew. And they always provide limited quantities of fuel, missiles, drone parts, as well as a way to repair your ship's hull. Also, knowing store locations can guide a player's decisions and how they spend scrap. If you are presented with all of your stores early in a sector, it would be wise to consider buying extra repairs and fuel, as the next opportunity to do so could be late next sector. If you haven't seen a store yet, but can account for all the beacons the rebels have overtaken, you know there is an upcoming store and perhaps can risk some damage instead of running away. To maximize the chances of seeing stores, the route through the sector should attempt to land on or be adjacent to every beacon that may be a store. This means limiting visiting Nebula if stores are found in non-Nebula beacons. If you prioritize getting scrap by pursuing Nebula jumps, distresses, or ship fights, thanks to the information provided by long-range scanners, you may miss out on the store that had hacking or a flak 1. During a given run of FTL, a player will have maybe a dozen chances to visit a store, and 80 chances to gain scrap. It would be wiser to be more frugal with your spending habits to maximize your limited opportunities with stores versus trying to maximize scrap and hope that the handful of stores you visit sell you what you need. This ties into concepts I talked about in my values video. Now, let's look applying the goals that were discussed. Here, we have an NG's homeworld, and all NG sectors have 2 or 3 guaranteed stores. First, we want to check all the beacon connections. Done. So now we know where we can go and where all the dead ends are. Next, we want to maximize the jumps in the sector. We see that the exit is going to be overtaken by the rebels on jump 13. So I'll want to jump on the exit beacon on my 12th jump. Finally, let's maximize our chances of being able to see stores. So as we're going to route the sector, we want to, as I said, land on or be adjacent to as many beacons as possible. One routing that we could do, or you may first consider, simply pathing this way. Trying to see the beacons down here, and then making our way back up to the exit. Detour will be helpful. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 10, 11, and 12. Now we see provides us So we land on these 12 beacons, but we will be able to see some additional beacons as well. Being this one. Now, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It's important to consider backtracking to hit a store, particularly if you aren't going to be able to see all the beacons. So like this beacon here would in fact be a dive with this routing. That means in total, we're going to miss seeing 1, 2, 3, 4 beacons. It's kind of uncomfortable to think that in a sector with 2 to 3 stores, there is this chance we actually won't find what we're looking for. However, there is an alternative. Instead, we can simply route our sector this way. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 11, and 12. And with this routing, be able to pick up these beacons here, here, here. This one down here, and in fact, we can actually backtrack to this beacon and get back to the exit. Means we're only missing the 3 beacons down in this corner. Now, another small consideration that could be made when routing through a sector is something like the Stealth B in the early sector, where hazards are a very bad thing to deal with, and you may want to path in a manner more like this one versus this forced routing that we saw before, where we have chances of jumping around the hazard beacons and still making the exit. But you can see with how the routing is done that something like long-range scanners is sort of limited in how useful it is, because this is the best way to ensure that you're going to be able to find stores. And if you had jumped around to, say, this beacon to take this fight, and there were maybe other fights over here, it would lessen the scope of our visibility and thus limit the likelihood of finding, as I said, stores. And that's it. That's how you scout sectors. I hope you find the guide helpful, and that if you apply the ideas expressed, you will find more success in FTL. Watching.